NZXT Cam. Monitor your games while playing. To learn more about it, check out the description. Hey everyone, it is the Angry Honey Badger here, and it is in fact time for the OP picks of patch 6.13. Looks like OP picks for the first go around on 6.12 went pretty well, so we're going to keep doing this. It's pretty decent, you know what I'm saying? Anyways, we're going to talk about 5 new OP picks for this patch that you can try out. Not all of these will probably be super surprising, but maybe you'll find them a little surprising, and we're going to talk about all of them. So first things first, let's start off with the top lane this time and hand things over to our OP pick, which is Kayle. Kayle right now currently has, I think, about the 3rd highest win rate in top lane. And honestly, Kayle is kind of a pocket pick, in my opinion. Kayle's play percentage is pretty low comparatively to other champions you see more often in the top lane, obviously. It's somewhere around under 2% pick rate for top lane, which is pretty low. There's others that are lower, but it's not something you see all the time. And honestly, besides me playing Kayle for this video, I haven't seen a Kayle actually in just a long time, personally, in a game. So something that's not generally picked, which means something that's not generally banned. So you don't really have to worry about it getting banned, which is a good thing. Now, when it comes to Kayle, I think we all know Kayle to be a pretty heavy damage dealing champion. And that's one thing she does very well. She can do plenty of damage to teams, really does a good job on single targets, making them fear their life and run away. But one other thing that Kayle does that I like about her is she's able to split push pretty fast and effectively because she builds a lot of attack speed. She can clear waves incredibly fast with Righteous Fury, and that makes her a considerably good split pushing threat. So that's one thing you can do with Kayle that I think a lot of people may sometimes forget a little bit about. They just assume, big damage numbers, the ability to stay ranged if they need to, and they can just, do that with a little bit of a support kit on her too, because as we know, she does have the heal and speed up, and she has her ultimate, which can keep people quite safe with the invulnerability. Now, one thing I want to also point out about Kayle is, one thing I think a lot of people forget about is that Kayle is a very good counter to Zed. And I know that we still see Zed banned a lot, but if Zed does sneak through and you see him get picked, if you need a flexer into the mid lane, that's completely normal for Kayle, honestly. And she does a great job of countering Zed. And if you wonder, well, how does she necessarily counter Zed? Well, she can basically deny the death mark all of the time with her ultimate. So she can always stay safe in a very chaotic fight with Zed to prevent a lot of damage. She also just outranges him too and does a lot of damage to him. And if she wants to push early on, she can do that and cause a little bit of a problem for Zed, who has decent clear, but early on he will run out of energy clearing minion waves if Kayle's just pushing them into the turret really fast. So you can create a headache for Zed. If you still think he's overpowered, you can definitely pick Kayle and play it into it. It does quite a good job, and I recommend you try that out. She is our first OP pick for this patch. Next, we're going to move things into the mid lane, and our OP pick is going to be for Annie. Annie currently has the 2nd highest win rate in the mid lane. It might be a little surprising. Her play percent's actually decently high. Not the highest, obviously. We're still seeing Victors and Aries and Twisted Fates played way more than her. Even Lux's and Yasuo's in mid lane played definitely more often than Annie. But Annie is a good pick right now in the mid lane. She does bring plenty of damage, as we know, and she has a very simplistic and easy laning phase. A lot of people like to give Annie players crap for picking her and playing her in the mid lane because she's just so easy to play. Yeah, I know. Her Q basically lets her last hit for free, and it's a lot easier to last hit because it's a lot more damage than an auto attack, but that's just one of the benefits to playing her and her kit. Also, after the changes that we saw during the mid-mage update, Annie's just in a slightly better spot, in my opinion, with what they changed to her. I think it's really awesome that Tibbers will murder whoever killed you. If you die, he stays alive and can run after him for a short period and, go ham. He picked me up a kill on the person who killed me the other day. It was just kind of an awesome little reward for Tibbers being angry that you killed Annie. That's awesome. Besides that, I really always like to recommend Annie to people who are, in fact, new to the mid lane or new to the game just in general. Doesn't mean that you can just necessarily be good at her instantly. She's more simplistic than others, but she's just a good place to start if you don't play a lot of that role, or if you're somebody who really does struggle with last hitting or needs to improve their last hitting. Like I said, her Q ability makes that a lot easier to do, so she's a good pick for that in general. She always actually has a lot of kills usually when it comes to averages. She's got really high kill average, which is something people like. She does have a little bit higher death average too, but that's because she gets focused, because she can be very impactful in a team fight. Flash Tibbers with a stun available means a lot of the enemy team is probably going to melt, and you follow that up with another couple quick abilities. You're probably taking at least 1 or 2 targets out, and you're probably half-lifing most of an enemy team. She also gets lots of assists though, because she has a lot of AoE damage, which is another way to get gold and to snowball her into a pretty consistently good lead. So that is going to be our mid lane OP pick for this patch. She's been doing work. You should be playing her. If you are not, I know it may be simple, but it is effective. Try it out. Let's move things now into the jungle, and our OP pick right now is going over to the top win rate in the jungle right now, which is of course Fiddlesticks. Fiddlesticks is played a little bit more nowadays because we had the fix to the jungle items. Previously, he wasn't hardly getting any play because the jungle items didn't make any sense for him to buy a single one of them. Now that they've tweaked him around a bit, there is a more fluid and better path for him to finally take, where he can actually get some beneficial stats from jungle items finally. Because of this and the tweaks to him, which some were positive and some were negative, but mostly positive, he's been slowly rising in power over the course of a handful of patches, honestly. I think at about round patch 610, he had a 51% win rate still, honestly. But since then, every patch he's gone up about a little over a full percent win rate wise. So he continues to rise and rise and rise. And he's back up to where he was when he was really strong about 6 patches ago. So Fiddlesticks definitely in a really good spot. His play percent's decently low. Like I said, we see him, but he's not played all the time. His band rate is almost non-existent. Fiddlesticks hardly pulls bans ever. Nothing to really worry about there. One thing I do like to talk about on the OP picks is champions that aren't getting banned necessarily all the time. I like to grab a handful of them, because if I just picked all the people getting banned constantly, that's not that entertaining and you can't really play them most of the time. So we like to try to find some of these champions that you know aren't going to get banned. And Fiddlesticks is one of those champions. Another thing Fiddlesticks obviously does is in the jungle, he has a lot of surprise ability, as we know, with his ultimate, and because that's just how he works. But he does bring a lot of damage, which is another good thing for certain people who maybe see that they're running a lot of tanks in the top, or maybe a lot of tanks in the, wherever he may be. Anyways, he's in the top 10 when it comes to damage numbers from the jungle, which is a really positive sign. It makes him a top 10 jungler for damage. And he always seems to get a lot of kills and assists because, well, he has lots of AoE damage because of the ultimate and because of his crows that bounce around. Drain is also really effective for taking and controlling Dragon early. He obviously can solo it by himself. It's not very difficult for him. So there's a lot of reasons right now why you would consider to play Fiddlesticks. The only thing I will say is if you do get invaded early, I know you have Drain at your disposal, which is good to have. But if you do get caught out a little bit or interrupted from your Drain, he's pretty squishy early on, and he is a good ganker before he hits 6. You just got to run the lane and terrify someone. But you got to be careful with it, too, at the same time because, it's Fiddlesticks. But he is a good pick. You should be trying him out. He is our OP pick in the jungle. Moving things on to the bot lane, let's talk about our support we're going to mention. Another one that you may not be aware of that we're going to talk about for our OP pick is going to be Leona, who currently is the highest win rate in the bot lane right now when it comes to supports. I know we've seen a lot of Shanna right now, and she has been doing a great job. I seem to see her in damn near every game. She might start to pull bans, but Leona, pretty decently high play rate, although I don't think I see her as much as I should. She also doesn't hardly pull any ban rates at all during games. It's very, very low. So that's something to also consider about Leona. But Leona right now has a very, very high win rate. She typically doesn't get a million kills, but she can pick them up. But that's not the thing we want to worry about. What I like about Leona is with the changes to the current meta, we saw a lot of tanks in about the previous 3 patches, and they've been slowly getting pushed out because of a shift in the meta and nerfs to items and tanks just a little bit, just some little things that have kind of pushed them back out. We're seeing, we're seeing more damage in top lane. We're seeing Aurelia's and Jax's and other things like that, but we're not seeing as much of the Maokai's or whoever else was being played up there when tanks were pretty much just living up in top lane. Oh, Tank Echo, some of that stuff. So what's happening is, or one thing I like to see about this is Leona is a tanky support. So when you lose a tank in the top lane, you're now picking up a tanky support in the bot lane, which helps transition into mid-game team fights where you have solid initiation with Leona. She obviously has a fantastic kit for this, we know that. And she also can get in and resist a lot of damage while being a good frontline person who can probably go in with your jungler most of the time. So that's something that I do like about the pick for Leona for our OP pick. As a support, it's pretty strong. It's something you should try out. The other thing too, just to mention about Leona, you got to be careful with who your ADC will be. You sometimes will have to give up your lane a little bit. For the game where I was playing Leona, we had Vayne and me as Leona against the Lucian Janna. They have more pick, poke, and fun stuff early. Vayne typically has to give up most of the early laning phase because that's just how Vayne works. And Leona, if she doesn't have a good ADC to kind of commit early on, it's not the best. So be careful with who you pick as your ADC with you. It could be difficult, but be careful. She's our OP pick for support. And finally, we're going to move things on to our ADC, and our OP pick for this week in that role is going to be for Jhin. Jhin right now is a considerably played ADC. That's no surprise. His ban rate among the ADCs right now is the 4th highest, but it's actually not terrible. Vayne, Caitlyn, and Lucian are all getting banned more often than him, which I actually find surprising because I think Ashe, who currently is the highest win rating ADC, is getting banned slightly less than Jhin. He's the next one below him, but that's interesting regardless, but we're not going to talk about her. We talked about her last week. But Jhin's who we're talking about now, and he is currently sitting at a very comfortable 53% win rate in the bot lane, and he's doing a good job right now too. One thing I like about him is his ability to immediately hit 6 and basically pick up kills in the bot lane with his support. He has a very impactful ultimate in that lane. You can pick up kills really easy with it early. It does a lot of damage at rank 1 for your ultimate. The other thing I really like about Jhin is he has the ability to start and still help fights from a considerable distance away. You can be very impactful with your ultimate and even just your W because of the range on it without being in a dangerous situation. We saw Fabi do this, and I think Sneaky in the LCS do this last week, where you can play him from pretty considerable range and have very high impact for your team. Another thing you can do with those high impact long range skills is you can sit back and pretty much disengage a fight when you see one break out in front of you that you think your team probably shouldn't necessarily be involved with right away. Granted, your ultimate at that point can turn a fight around completely, which is a good thing. You can pretty much make a team fumble their initiations if you open up the Jhin ult and basically say, you want to fight right in front of me and I'm not up there, I'm going to open up my ultimate. Now you can continue to engage into my team and try to pick someone, but you're going to have to be running at my bullets, which usually will, it's going to slow them down because they slow when they hit, and they're going to do plenty of damage to maybe make them either not continue with the initiation, maybe make half of them continue and half of them kind of break off because they see the ult and maybe think they should disengage, or you're going to basically turn it around and get a pick onto them. I think it's incredibly impactful, and if you're not the world's greatest ADC, you probably shouldn't play Jhin, but he does have like an area of value outside of a lot of other ADCs where he can sit back further and really not have to auto attack because if it's too chaotic to get in and do necessary damage. So you can sit back, help the team, deal damage, and really help control the pacing and tempo of certain fights. So I think he's a very strong asset in that manner, and also he's just hella fun to play. So that is who I'm giving over our ADC OP pick for this patch. Well, there you go. There you have it. Those are the OP picks for patch 6.13. Let me know what you guys think down below on those picks, if you've been playing them, if you've been enjoying them. Obviously, I think you should try them out. They all have really good win rates, honestly, right now. Even if I pick champions in the future that don't have great win rates, they still can be incredibly strong champions. For example, Azir never has a positive win rate, but he's been incredibly overpowered in certain patches. So that happens, so be prepared for that. Anyways, I wish all of you the very best of luck, and have fun out there playing the League of Legos, and I'll see you guys next time.